Jeep has just triggered a full-blown inventory crisis, and dealerships across America are scrambling to figure out what the hell just happened. Overnight, lots that were already packed suddenly became parking lots, overflowing with unsold Wranglers, Cherokees, and Gladiators, and the panic inside showrooms is growing louder by the hour. Sales managers are whispering about the Jeep crash, analysts are firing warnings, and stunned customers are walking into dealerships expecting deals, but walking out completely confused by what they're seeing. Because here's the truth, Jeep didn't just slow down, they hit a brick wall. Production kept running at full speed, while demand collapsed faster than anyone expected. The result? Thousands of units piling up with no buyers in sight. Some dealers are reportedly doubling their storage lots, towing vehicles to off-site locations, and stacking inventory so tightly that staff literally can't move vehicles without shuffling rows like a giant automotive puzzle. And the craziest part? Stellantis saw this storm forming months ago, but tried to push ahead, hoping sales would magically surge back. Spoiler, they didn't. Dealers are now begging the automaker for emergency incentives because every extra day those vehicles sit, their floor plan costs skyrocket. Some franchises say they're holding more than a 180-day supply, triple the healthy level, and it's suffocating their bottom line. You'd think this would mean massive discounts for customers, right? Not so fast. Instead of slashing prices, many dealers are trapped between rising interest costs and corporate pressure to maintain sticker prices. It's creating a bizarre situation where customers want deals, dealers want to discount, but Stellantis is refusing to let them swing the axe wide open. That tension is boiling over behind closed doors. Salespeople are complaining that customers walk in expecting fire sale prices after hearing about the crisis online, only to be told that Jeep hasn't officially green-lit those huge markdowns yet. Managers are caught in the middle, and some dealers are reportedly threatening to push back against Stellantis if something doesn't change soon. And while all this chaos unfolds, the brand's reputation is quietly taking a hit as shoppers wonder why Jeep models are stacking up like abandoned inventory at a liquidation warehouse. But this crisis goes deeper than just unsold SUVs. It exposes a fundamental problem with Jeep's current strategy, because while buyers are shifting toward hybrid and EV options, Jeep is still heavily reliant on traditional gas-powered models that aren't aligning with what the market is demanding right now. Competitors are adapting faster, and Jeep's lineup, once iconic and untouchable, is now starting to look outdated to younger shoppers. Combine that with rising interest rates and shrinking consumer confidence, and suddenly you have the perfect formula for an inventory meltdown. And the warning signs were flashing months before this crisis exploded. Dealers noticed foot traffic dropping, test drives slowing down, and customers hesitating on purchases they would have jumped on just a year ago. Yet instead of adjusting production or offering smarter incentives, Jeep pushed even harder, flooding the system with more units while consumer interest was fading. Now those decisions are coming back hard, and dealerships are the ones paying the price. Literally. Some dealers are reporting that they're burning thousands of dollars every week just holding vehicles they can't move. That kind of pressure doesn't just squeeze profit margins, it crushes them. Meanwhile, industry insiders say the situation is reaching a breaking point because inventory levels are so high that many dealers can't even accept new deliveries. Transport trucks are being turned away and redirected to temporary overflow lots because there's simply nowhere left to put these vehicles. Think about that for a second. Brand new Jeeps arriving straight from the factory, only to be stashed in random rented fields, parking garages, and unused industrial spaces like they're surplus cargo nobody ordered. It makes Jeep look desperate, and customers are noticing. And when buyers start seeing huge piles of unsold vehicles, they make one assumption: prices are about to crash. That expectation alone is enough to freeze the market. Why pay full price today when the same vehicle might be thousands cheaper next month? This mindset is spreading fast, and it's turning a bad situation into a full-blown disaster. Dealers are frustrated because they want to cut prices, but Stellantis is terrified of damaging the brand's value. It's a tug of war with millions of dollars on the line, and neither side is willing to blink first. To make things even more chaotic, some dealers are breaking silence and publicly warning that if something doesn't change soon, we could see the biggest Jeep clearance event in over a decade. That means deep discounts, aggressive financing, and incentives so large they'll look like the automaker is practically begging people to take these vehicles home. But as of now, Stellantis is holding the line, insisting that the crisis is temporary, while dealers are saying the situation is already out of control. And as this standoff grows, the uncertainty is shaking customer confidence even even more, pushing Jeep into a dangerous cycle that's getting harder to escape with each passing week. And behind all the panic, a bigger revelation is emerging. This inventory crisis isn't just about too many vehicles, it's about Jeep losing its grip on what used to be one of the strongest brand loyalties in the entire auto market. For decades, people bought Jeeps because they loved the rugged image, the off-road capability, and the lifestyle that came with the brand. But now, many longtime customers feel the lineup has drifted away from its roots. Rising prices, complicated trims, shrinking reliability scores, and aggressive markups during the pandemic have left a bitter taste for thousands of buyers who once swore they'd never drive anything else. And that shift is starting to show up clearly. Shoppers who used to head straight for a Wrangler or Grand Cherokee are now cross-shopping with Toyota, Ford, Subaru, and even Korean brands. Options they never would have considered before. When loyalty cracks, sales slow. When sales slow, inventory piles up. And that's exactly what's happening right now in real time. Dealers see it every day. Fewer trade-ins, fewer repeat customers, and more people walking in just to look without any urgency to buy. The emotional pull that once made Jeep bulletproof is fading fast. Even worse for Jeep, the competition is attacking aggressively. Rival brands are rolling out cheaper trims, better fuel economy, longer warranties, and tech features that Jeep models just can't match without raising prices even further. Some consumers are calling it the perfect storm. Jeep stuck between rising costs and falling demand. While competitors slide right into the gaps the brand is leaving wide open. Dealers feel like they're trying to sell a premium product in a market that's shifting toward value, and Stellantis isn't giving them the tools to fight back. Meanwhile, the ripple effects are hitting the used market too. Pre-owned Jeeps, especially Wranglers and Gladiators, are starting to see price drops that were unthinkable a year or two ago. As used prices fall, buyers become even more hesitant to purchase new models since they expect the same crash to hit showroom floors soon. This creates a loop of hesitation. People wait for better deals, dealers wait for corporate incentives, and Stellantis waits for sales to magically recover. But nothing recovers when everyone is waiting for someone else to make the first move. On top of that, whispers from inside the industry suggest that some dealers are quietly preparing for deep markdowns, whether Stellantis approves them or not. They'd rather take the hit now than get buried under months of carrying costs. If even a handful of large volume dealers start slashing prices on their own, the entire market could shift overnight, forcing Stellantis into a corner they've been trying to avoid. And once that domino falls, every other dealership will follow, turning this into one of the biggest price collapses Jeep has faced in modern history. And the truth is, Stellantis knows they're running out of time. Internal reports circulating among dealership groups claim the automaker is reviewing emergency corrective measures, a phrase that usually signals one thing: massive incentives are on the way. But the longer they wait, the worse the financial pressure becomes on the ground. Dealers are already warning that if inventory doesn't move soon, they'll have to start cutting staff, reducing hours, and halting store upgrades just to stay afloat. It's a ripple effect that hits hard and spreads fast. At the same time, customers are starting to treat Jeep like a brand that's about to offer historic discounts. Forums, Facebook groups, and auto enthusiast communities are buzzing with advice like wait a little longer, prices will tank soon, and dealers are desperate. When buyers believe they're in the driver's seat, demand slows even further, and that perception is exactly what's fueling this crisis. Every day, Jeep delays making a bold move. Customers become even more confident that the next big price drop is right around the corner. Meanwhile, on the ground level, dealers are getting more vocal about their frustrations. Some franchise owners are openly criticizing Stellantis for forcing them to carry inventory levels that no longer match market conditions. They argue the company is stuck in an outdated mindset, pretending demand is still at pandemic-era highs when the reality is the complete opposite. They want flexibility, permission to discount aggressively, adjust orders, and tailor marketing to their local markets. But Stellantis continues to push a one-size-fits-all strategy that just doesn't work anymore, and that strategy becomes especially painful considering Jeep's current lineup challenges. Models like the Renegade and Cherokee have struggled to maintain their market share, while the Wrangler and Gladiator, once unbeatable, are now facing heavy competition from brands offering cheaper ownership costs. Add rising insurance rates, higher fuel prices, and declining reliability scores into the mix, and suddenly the Jeep lifestyle looks a lot more expensive than it used to be. Modern buyers want capability, yes, but they also want value, and right now, Jeep is failing to hit both targets at the same time. Behind closed doors, analysts are saying that if this crisis isn't handled properly, it could trigger a long-term shift in how Americans view the Jeep brand. It's not just about clearing inventory, it's about resetting the brand's entire direction. Jeep has a loyal fan base, but loyalty has limits when financial pressure kicks in, both for buyers and the dealerships trying to survive. And with every day that passes and every vehicle that continues to sit unsold, that pressure keeps building, squeezing tighter and tighter as the market waits for a breaking point. And while Stellantis tries to play it cool publicly, insiders are saying the situation behind the scenes is anything but calm. Executives are reportedly meeting almost daily, trying to analyze why demand dropped so sharply and how the company managed to miscalculate the market this badly. Some blame rising interest rates, others blame poor product planning. A few even claim that internal forecasting models were months out of sync with what dealers were reporting on the ground. Whatever the reason, the disconnect between corporate optimism and dealer reality has never been this wide. Dealers, on the other hand, aren't mincing words anymore. They're demanding immediate support, bigger incentives, extended financing programs, and marketing campaigns that actually resonate with today's buyers. They argue that without corporate intervention, the brand's momentum could collapse entirely, especially as more shoppers migrate toward more affordable brands offering longer warranties and lower long-term costs. And because Jeep vehicles tend to be priced at a premium, even a small shift in consumer sentiment hits the brand harder than others. Meanwhile, customers are walking into showrooms with a very specific mindset: negotiate hard or walk away. They know dealers are under pressure, they know inventory is piling up, they know time is on their side, not the dealerships. And this shift in buyer psychology is creating a paralysis effect. Instead of making decisions, customers stall. They wait, they watch the market, and as they wait, inventory grows even higher, creating the very crisis they expect to benefit from. It's a self-feeding loop that Jeep hasn't managed to break yet. Even more worrying is the impact this is having on future orders. Some dealers say they've already slashed upcoming allocations, refusing to take more units until the current stock moves. This is a nightmare scenario for Stellantis, because if dealers begin rejecting inventory, production plants get affected next. That leads to downtime, layoffs, and ripple effects across multiple US supply chains. It's not just a dealership problem anymore. It's an industry problem waiting to explode. And while all of this unfolds, competitors are quietly celebrating. Brands like Ford, Toyota, Subaru, and even Hyundai are watching the chaos unfold and positioning themselves to scoop up any customers abandoning Jeep. They're launching aggressive ads, rolling out financing deals, and promoting reliability, basically everything Jeep doesn't want shoppers thinking about right now. The longer this crisis continues, the more permanent those customer losses become. Once someone switches brands, it's incredibly hard to win them back. But the scariest part for Jeep is the long-term perception shift that might already be underway. When a brand becomes known for having too much inventory, consumers associate it with falling demand, falling value, and falling confidence. And perception alone can spark a collapse faster than any financial metric. If Jeep doesn't turn this around quickly, they may be staring at a brand reputation challenge far bigger than a simple inventory problem. And the deeper analysts dig, the more it becomes clear that this crisis didn't appear out of nowhere. It's the result of years of slow, gradual shifts in the market that Jeep simply didn't react to fast enough. Buyers are no longer willing to pay premium prices for rugged styling alone. They want efficiency, they want modern tech, they want reliability ratings that instill confidence, especially when financing a vehicle now feels like signing a 6-year commitment to monthly pain. Jeep's models still look tough and iconic, but when customers compare features and long-term ownership costs, the brand suddenly looks outdated for its price bracket. And that's exactly why so many dealers are frustrated. They see customers walk in excited about the Jeep image, only to get cold feet the moment they see the monthly payment or hear about rising insurance costs. Then they walk right down the street and buy a competitor's SUV for less money and fewer worries. Dealers can't fight this trend alone, no matter how skilled their sales teams are. They need Stellantis to realign pricing, offer more competitive financing, and and most importantly, restore consumer confidence before that confidence is gone for good. Meanwhile, financial pressure inside showrooms is reaching levels some dealers say they haven't seen since the 2008 recession. Floor plan financing costs are skyrocketing, forcing dealers to choose between paying interest on hundreds of stuck vehicles or taking losses by discounting them. Neither option is sustainable. Some dealership groups are quietly negotiating with banks for temporary relief, while others are considering internal restructuring just to stay ahead of the curve. The fact that Jeep inventory is now being referred to as the new housing bubble among dealer circles tells you everything you need to know. And as the crisis snowballs, social media is amplifying it. Videos showing massive overflow lots packed with Jeeps are going viral. TikTok influencers are warning viewers to wait for the big Jeep crash sale. Reddit threads are filled with screenshots of insane dealer inventories and speculation that prices could collapse any day now. Whether or not that's true almost doesn't matter. Once the perception spreads online, buyers behave accordingly. It creates a market freeze that pushes dealers into deeper panic and puts even more pressure on Stellantis to act immediately. Inside Jeep headquarters, some insiders reportedly fear that if this situation isn't contained soon, the brand could face a reset so severe it forces them to overhaul pricing strategies, trim lineups, or pause production on certain models. These are moves that automakers avoid at all costs because they're expensive, embarrassing, and disruptive. But the math isn't lying. Inventory is rising, demand is falling, customers are waiting, dealers are suffering, and the longer this imbalance lasts, the more drastic the eventual correction will need to be. And with every passing week, the question becomes harder to ignore. Is Jeep facing a temporary market hiccup or the beginning of a structural collapse that could redefine the brand for years to come? And as more data pours in, the picture gets even more alarming. Analysts tracking nationwide dealership inventories say some Jeep models are now sitting on lots for 200 to 260 days before finding a buyer. That's more than double the industry average and a massive red flag for any automaker. When vehicles sit that long, their value drops, their financing costs explode, and their appeal fades. No matter how iconic the Jeep badge is, customers lose interest when a model looks like it's been parked in the same spot for half a year. But what's hitting dealers the hardest isn't just the cost, it's the psychological toll. Many feel like they're trapped in a storm they didn't create. They ordered vehicles months ago when Stellantis assured them demand would rebound, only to watch those vehicles arrive just as consumer spending tanked. Now, their lots look more like storage yards, and every delivery truck that pulls up feels like another blow. Some dealers have even stopped advertising certain models because promoting them only highlights how badly the brand is struggling to move them. And customers aren't blind to any of this. When shoppers see endless rows of the same models lined up like unsold merchandise, they start to wonder what's wrong. They assume the vehicles must be overpriced, unreliable, or about to be discounted heavily. That assumption alone is enough to stall the entire buying process. No one wants to buy a Jeep today and find out tomorrow that the dealership down the street just slashed prices by thousands. This wait-and-see mentality has spread faster than anyone anticipated, turning the inventory crisis into a self-inflicted slowdown that feeds on itself. Even Jeep enthusiasts, people who genuinely love the brand, are hesitating. Many are debating online whether they should wait for the big price correction everyone expects. These are loyal buyers, repeat customers, people who used to pre-order Wranglers without even seeing them in person. Now they're telling each other to hold off, to wait for incentives, to wait for clearance events. When the most loyal fan base becomes cautious, you know the brand is in trouble. At the same time, pressure is building inside financial institutions. Banks and lenders who back dealership floor plans are monitoring the situation closely. They don't like seeing inventories pile up because it increases risk on their end. If Jeep models suddenly plummet in value, lenders could be exposed to losses on millions of dollars in inventory that dealerships can't move. That fear alone can trigger tighter lending conditions, which would squeeze dealers even more and potentially push some to the brink. And while Jeep tries to maintain a confident public image, the industry buzz says otherwise. Rival automakers are already adjusting their strategies, preparing for the moment Jeep is forced to roll out major incentives. They know that when Jeep finally cracks and starts discounting aggressively, the entire SUV market could shift. Prices will fall, competition will intensify, and customers will gain more leverage than they've had in years. It's not just a crisis for Jeep, it could become a shockwave for the entire industry. But the biggest looming question is this: how long can Stellantis hold out before reality forces their hand? And by this point, Stellantis knows they're standing on a cliff. They can either act now and take a controlled hit, or wait too long and watch the market force an uncontrolled collapse. Dealers are pushing harder than ever, customers are holding their ground, and the data keeps pointing in one direction. Jeep cannot afford to stand still anymore. The brand must decide whether to protect its image or save its dealers, because doing both is no longer an option. Insiders suggest a major incentive wave is already being drafted. Bigger cash rebates, deeper financing deals, and loyalty bonuses designed to pull hesitant buyers back into showrooms. And if those incentives launch, it could break the stalemate almost overnight. Customers will finally move, dealers will get relief, and inventory will start to shrink. But that fix comes with a cost. Once Jeep lowers prices significantly, it'll be nearly impossible to raise them back up. And that's the nightmare scenario Stellantis has been trying to avoid, because once a brand becomes associated with heavy discounts, it loses pricing power, possibly forever. Meanwhile, if Stellantis chooses the opposite route, cutting production sharply, they risk signaling to the world that the crisis is worse than they admitted. Production cuts mean factory downtime, layoffs, supplier disruptions, and negative headlines that could spook customers all over again. It's a lose-lose decision, and that's exactly why the company has been so slow to act. But at some point, doing nothing becomes the most dangerous move of all. As pressure rises, some analysts believe Jeep is approaching a reputation tipping point. Too much inventory, too many price rumors, too many viral videos showing empty showrooms and overflowing lots. It all adds up. If the brand doesn't act soon, the story will shift from Jeep is struggling to Jeep is collapsing. And once that narrative takes hold, recovery becomes a long, painful uphill climb. But the good news, if there is any, is that Jeep still has a massive fan base, strong brand recognition, and models people genuinely want. The crisis hasn't erased that. What the brand does next will determine whether Jeep emerges from this situation humbled but stable, or severely weakened and vulnerable. And with every passing week, the decision becomes more urgent, because no matter how tough Jeep's image is, no brand can survive an inventory crisis this big without making bold moves. Right now, all eyes are on Stellantis, waiting for the moment they finally admit that the inventory dam has broken, and that the only way forward is through aggressive action, painful resets, and a hard reboot of the Jeep strategy. The next steps they take could decide the brand's future for the next decade. If you found this breakdown eye-opening, buckle up, because the Jeep crisis is only one piece of the chaos unfolding across the entire auto industry. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next deep dive into the market shifts that automakers don't want you to know about. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.